both Winter Soldier and Brave New World are trying to be serious political thrillers that just happen to have superheroes in them. And I don't think it works. Civil War kind of did a similar thing with the Sokovian Accords. Like ever since Watchmen in 1986 has the superhero genre looked for ways to be relevant and grown up and intelligent. And it's often had to do with things like using superheroes as an allegory for war or celebrity or power or something like that. And I think whenever they've tried to make that relevant to the real world and real world politics, it's never quite worked. And that is why I think the superhero genre is much better at morality writ large, as opposed to dealing with actual serious topics.
I was going to bring it back to the Sokovian Accords. They kind of like did a good job of pitching both sides of the argument. What do you do in a situation where someone needs your help, but you're not permitted to go and help? And for someone that has the ideals of Captain America, it's like he always wants to do the right thing. And, he would only see that as like a blocker. And obviously we've seen him go rogue in a number of movies already to sort of go and do the right thing. And that's how he really became sort of who he was, by not following orders and sort of doing what he wanted to do. For me, it was an interesting back and forth as to what do you do in a situation where they're basically weapons of mass destruction, these superheroes, and how do you best sort of use them, and sort of where do you kind of like use them and this and the other.
And how do you keep them accountable in the real world when states use violence on somewhere they're accountable? I think it was Iron Man 2, right, where he's on trial for proliferation issues. It's just portrayed as a threat to the hero. When in the real world, we all should really want to try to keep these people accountable for what they can do, right? Even if they 99% of the time they use it for good, if they choose not to one day, what do we do then, right? And that's especially true for characters like Thor or Vision. Like what happens if Thor decides a group of people need to die or an organization needs to be destroyed? What then? Are they not accountable to any laws? Are they not accountable to any courts or anything? And if they are, how? Like superhero stories have tried to wade into these topics. I don't think it's quite worked because the attempt to regulate what the heroes do and hold them accountable is always presented as a threat, as a spoil sport, or even as a sinister agenda. Brave New World seems to be going in the same direction, right? Where the US government is trying to make Captain America, like integrate him into just the regular military, right? Which by real world standards would probably be a good thing because then he's accountable. And you can set rules for how that power is supposed to be used, as opposed to the whims of one individual. You can't trust that they'll always do the right thing. We know they're going to because they're protagonists in a movie, but if they were a real person in the real world, how would you know that they would always do the right thing? Or that their idea of the right thing matches your ideas and so on, right? For that reason, I've never really seen a treatment of that kind of whole topic that was actually justified, because it would basically mean that superheroes are the worst thing to ever happen to the world. And nobody who shows up for a superhero movie wants that to be the case, right? We all want to see noble people use their power to make the world a better place, right? But if the claim is we are using this medium to talk about big important issues, then you can apply the standard of how does this stack up against real world logic and ethics and things like that. And when you do that, superheroes don't look very good. And that is where kind of this whole idea that Batman is a fascist who beats up mentally ill people in the streets comes from, right? Which I think is a completely idiotic take that ignores like all of Batman's history and large chunks of what the genre has been about. I really like the superhero genre. I really like this aspirational idea of what if you're in the position to help in ways that other people can't? What is the state of mind and thought process of somebody who is in that position and then makes the right choice? I think that is interesting to watch as fiction. But once you kind of wade into this idea of we are offering serious insight into serious issues, then the rules change.